Cycling for me has never been about the bikes. They've only ever been the prerequisite tool. I do not see just a bike race, I see riders on heroic journeys and warriors doing battle. At one point, cycling was the most popular sport in Europe because newspapers told magnificent tales about epic races and crafted the great champions into legends. But with the advent of television, cycling lost some of its mystique, and that golden age of journalism and narration has perished. So now let us try to return some romance to the beautiful sport. Let us praise and give glory to phenomenal performances to be remembered for decades to come. Let us dwell on the moments that inspire and move us. Let us chronicle the rise and fall of heroes. Let us chart these life-changing journeys, these cycling odysseys. All right, welcome back to another episode of Cycling Odysseys. I'm your host, Patrick Santino. Today we are previewing the men's elite cyclocross world championships in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's coming up this Sunday. So, like I said, I meant to write a preview. What it kind of turned into was more of a recap of the doubleheader from this weekend, because that was pretty crazy racing, pretty exciting, very, very exciting actually, sorry. And so I kind of give blow-by-blows of those races and then weave in some predictions or thoughts on form and stuff throughout that. So, with all that said, let's jump into it, and I can try to do a bit of analyzing afterwards too. "2022 Men's Elite Worlds Preview. Question marks ahead of the chance of a lifetime." All right, yes. This title is beyond cliche and perhaps almost lazy. But if you have watched men's cyclocross at all for the past 8 seasons, can you blame me at all for picking such a title? Are not the men's elite riders themselves thinking of this race in such terms? It is the first time both the Mighty Aces will be out of their way and out of attendance. They will likely not care if they get the questions that have plagued Vincenzo Nibali, probing that he only won the 2014 Tour because Froome and Contador crashed out. Because the Mighty Aces had bowed out early to recover or prepare for the road season. The best any one of them can do is beat the others that toe the line, and the one that does beat the others shall have the honor of wearing the rainbow jersey for an entire year. Yes, it is unclear how many more chances any of them will ever have again. But who are the men who even have the chance? Difficult to say, for the penultimate weekend's doubleheader left the audience with more question marks than we had before it. The World Cup at Flamanville the week before the penultimate weekend doubleheader was a relatively dull affair. The course, in a nutshell, was a desecration of a beautiful Norman Chateau's green grounds, and the race, in a nutshell, was handedly won by Ellie Iserbyt of Paul Salzen Bingle over Toon Aerts of the Belwaz Trek Lions, and Paul Salzen teammates Michael Van Toornout and Lawrence Sweck. The rest of the men's favorite rested up or squeezed in the last block of training before beginning a taper for the World Championships. But come the Flandrian Cross at Hama this past Saturday, all the favorites were back in attendance save Tormans rider Quinten Hermans, who only rode Hoogerheide the day after this past Sunday. And it must be said, for the penultimate racing weekend before a Worlds that is across an ocean away and holds a possible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the competition was unexpectedly ferocious and thrilling. Toon Aerts went clear on the first lap of the Flandrian Cross at Hama. The Paul Salzen trio, Iserbyt, Van Toornout, and Sweck, went into action chasing him down. Further behind on course, the likes of the European champion Lars van der Haar of the Belwaz Trek Lions and Tom Pidcock of the Ineos Grenadiers were scrambling to pick their ways through the pack after getting off to horrendous starts. Within a lap or two, Pidcock had reached the chasing Paul Salzen teammates and joined their efforts to bring back solo Toon Aerts out front. Over the course of those laps, Tom Pidcock drove on so hard he strung out and snapped the cohesion of the Paul Salzen trio in his chase for Aerts out front. Van Toornout fell off the pace and did not have it this day. Ellie Iserbyt was clearly on the ropes and off the back by a few seconds. Only Lawrence Sweck was up to the challenge to hold Pidcock's wheel. It took them about half the race to catch Toon Aerts out front, but Pidcock and Sweck did indeed catch up, and Iserbyt trailed or dangled only a few seconds behind. Pidcock wasted no time, driving the pace on ever harder, and Toon Aerts latched on for the ride, fully up for the challenge, while even Lauren Sweck started to fall off the pace with teammate Iserbit following a few seconds behind in a no man's land. Pidcock's relentless pace quickly put Toon Aerts in trouble as well. But Aerts and Sweck were determined not to let this one get away from them. They managed to claw their ways back and reconnect with Pidcock. And behind them, Ellie Iserbit had not thrown in the towel yet either, for he was still dangling some 5 to 10 seconds behind the trio. Heading into the most famous feature of the course, the wild pump track, Toon Aerts and Sweck passed Pidcock and actually extended a little gap to him on the single track's technical turns. And Ellie Iserbit was finally able to latch onto Pidcock as he fell back. For the next 2 laps of racing, Toon Aerts out front all race, and Lauren Sweck pushed the pace to not let Pidcock and even Iserbit come back into this one. But Pidcock and Iserbit also had not yet even thought to give up the fight. All 4 began truly pushing the speed limits of the course. Iserbit hung on to Pidcock's wheel for dear life as Pidcock brought the race back together again with about 2.5 laps left to race. Iserbit then heroically, or for the purposes of team tactics, immediately went to the front and further drove on the pace. The next 2 laps were a flurry of attacks and counterattacks, most coming from the Powell's pair of Iserbit and Sweck. But as the 4 came to the line and took the bell, they were all basically still together. And to start that final lap, Pidcock threw down a scorching attack that finally shattered Iserbit's legs. The pace was elevated to its highest of the race, but still Toon Aerts and Lauren Sweck were up to the challenge of following the mighty Tom Pidcock. And within a quarter of a lap, on a 90-degree left turn, Tom Pidcock entirely slid out, having taken the turn too fast. Pidcock hit the deck and his hopes of winning were over right there. The race came down to Toon Aerts and Lauren Sweck, who would prove equals all the way to the final straight. Through the pump track for the final time, Sweck led Aerts, staying within a bike length. As they came out of the pump track, Lauren Sweck began his sprint immediately from the front, and Toon Aerts scrambled to follow. The Hama sprint is notoriously long and hard. Toon was closing, but both wanted this one so badly, and Sweck out front was able to hold him off to take the victory. So that was the thrilling race in most of its glorious detail. But what are we to make of this Hama race with an eye on Worlds some 8 days out? First and foremost, with all due respect to the victor Lauren Sweck, he has not been a prolific winner or even a podium appearer this season. The only handful of podiums he made in the World Cup, Super Prestige, and X2O races were on courses with decisively sandy sections that are his bread and butter. Perhaps it was his second place to Wout van Aert of Jumbo-Visma on the sand dunes of Middelkerke that catapulted his confidence into this late season, and now he is riding a wave of great form heading into Worlds. What of his teammate, Ellie Iserbit? He has been the most consistent all season, even rode well back in October to finish second on the Fayetteville course, but he has had some bad days and has always struggled to get the better of Tom Pidcock and the Mighty Aces. Even on this day at Hama, he struggled to hang on to the leaders for the entire race. And what of tall Toon Aerts? He has been consistent all season, risen to every challenge, and gotten off to very great starts in almost every race in recent months. But who can he beat in a sprint if it came to it? Few victories has he taken this season. And of course, what of Tom Pidcock? He finished 5th on the day after almost sluggishly completing the final lap where the camera captured him downing a gel while racing. Pidcock did not race last weekend and forwent defending his British title the week before that to attend a fair-weather Ineos training camp as final prep for this Worlds, and surely to put in some work for a big road season to come. How tired was he this race? He needed a gel. Did he bonk? Was the late handling mistake from fatigue or an equipment issue? Pidcock was the one most watched, for like the Mighty Aces, he is already a road star. Perhaps this Hama race was just the one he needed to find his legs after a big training camp. Perhaps a clearer picture of the rider's form would be developed after the next day at the final World Cup in Hoogerheide. The Hoogerheide race quickly began to play out in a predictable way based off what had transpired the whole cross season. The European champion, Lars van der Haar, and the man he beat for that jersey, Quinten Hermans, broke away on the second lap of the fast-running course. Tom Pidcock led a group of favorites to chase them down. In that hot pursuit, Toon Aerts mishandled his bunny hop on the barriers, tangled himself against the fencing of the course, and was not much of a factor for the rest of the race. Meanwhile, Pidcock on the stairs and upward dragging final straight bridged to the leading Hermans and Van der Haar, with most favorites closely chasing 2 or 3 seconds behind. Pidcock was leading as the group swung around a tight and wickedly fast 90-degree right turn. Behind Pidcock, Lars Van der Haar entirely wiped out on the narrow turn and took down Quinten Hermans behind him. Most of the other favorites were held up as well, but all were quickly moving again except for Quinten Hermans, who had a jammed or dropped chain. And his luck would only get rottener from there, as you shall hear. But after this instance, Pidcock was free to fly and dominate the race like one of the mighty aces he has always keyed off of. He looked good. By the end of the lap, Pidcock had a 12-second lead on Van Tornout and 18 seconds on Iserbyt and Van der Haar, and the next best were all 30 seconds back or further. The race almost became dull over the next 2 laps. In the course of those 2 laps, Van Tornout, Iserbyt, and Van der Haar regrouped and came across the line 18 seconds behind Tom Pidcock, still flying up front. Pidcock was proving to be on the best form of the field to fill the vacuum left by the mighty aces, and he looked to have put the race away. But on that 7th lap of 9, Van der Haar could not hold the pace of Iserbyt and Van Tornout. It seemed not because he was fading, but because the Paulshausen pair were now indeed bringing back this Pidcock lead. In an instant, Van Tornout botched the barriers, had to dismount, but kept it upright and was back chasing with Lars Van der Haar. It was only Eli Iserbyt solo, chasing down his old rival Pidcock. And, for a change, Eli Iserbyt was finally bringing this one back for once. On the penultimate lap, Iserbyt finished hawking down Tom Pidcock. Iserbyt came to the front to drive the pace while Pidcock sat on as best he could. But from behind, Lars Van der Haar and Michael Van Tornout, seemingly out of nowhere, bridged the 14 seconds across as well, to have the quad come across the finish line and take the bell lap together. It was Iserbyt that drove them all on as soon as the bell began to ring. Over the course of the final lap, Iserbyt exuded brute force and stretched the gap inch by inch until he was some 3 or 4 seconds ahead. Iserbyt could get no more than that, and over the barriers, Pidcock put on a last big push to close the gap. But into the final staircase and all the way down the finishing straight, Pidcock quite simply could not catch the victorious Eli Iserbyt. Lars Van der Haar pipped Pidcock for second, and Michael Van Tornout finished within a second of them all as well. And after this, our feast of a race, our hunger to see furious feats was satisfied, but all of our minds' world's predictions were even more clouded than at the race's start. That is the way of it. Who will seize the chance of a lifetime and don the rainbow jersey? Your guess is as good as mine. Throw a blanket over anyone I have named. Truly, all have a legitimate shot to pop out from under it first and taste victory. Tom Pidcock is still the bookie's favorite, and has been since Van Aert announced he was bowing out. He is the Olympic mountain bike champion. He has already stood on classics podiums for the Ineos Grenadiers, but he has also at times looked vulnerable, most notably this weekend. Sure, perhaps an easy tapering week could go a long way for Worlds in a few days' time, but Tom Pidcock raced this weekend with aggression, and on Saturday he made technical mistakes. On Sunday, he was outright brought back into the fold as if only an equal. Even if he is still feeling confident in his form and progression, he has now boosted the confidence also of his rivals. Eli Iserbyt has been the most consistent rider all season, and this was a statement win at Hoogerheide so late into the season. Will he seize his chance, or will he dangle off the back in no man's land like he did on Saturday? What of Toon Aerts? How badly did the Hoogerheide barrier botch affect him for the future? Toon has been phenomenally consistent season after season and even at Worlds. He has won all the major classifications, been Euro and Belgian champion. Will he make the most of his greatest chance for the one and greatest jersey missing in his collection? What of the man that beat Toon in the sprint the day before, Laurens Sweeck? After such a high, he only finished an anonymous 10th today. What of his teammate, Michael Van Tornout, who looked solid today and took the massive victory at Namur a month ago? And what of our European champion, Lars Van der Haar, who also rode well and heroically today? Could he copy and paste the Col du Vam ascending success onto the ascents of Fayetteville? For so long he has chased the rainbows, almost for a decade, but he was on the losing side of the mighty Aces' rises. Finally, for once, they are not in his way. But one of the few riders named will surely not seize the chance. Alas, the defending champion on the Fayetteville course, Quinten Hermans. Almost the European champion this season, but for Lars van der Hars's late race surge. Now, not even allowed a shot to defend his course win. For Quinten Hermans has tested positive for COVID and is not allowed to compete. Alas for the man, he deserves much better. Lamentations could be composed of all his near misses this season, and now his greatest dreams and hopes have morbidly been dashed upon the rocks from high walls above like Hector's offspring. And yet, in a vain or nihilistic way, his dreams have only been crushed sooner than many others, which are soon to go down a similar drain by Sunday's end. For only one man can win and don the rainbow jersey, a tangible and physical reward for the achievement of a lifetime. I speak too darkly of all-for-naught efforts at the end of this preview, though they are worth highlighting, for they lay out the stakes this race shall have come Sunday. Quinten Hermans has been robbed of his opportunity to compete, and that is surely a shame if he is asymptomatic and still fighting fit. While for the rest who are doomed to be defeated, a loss shall surely feel a crushing blow. But they should put their best foot forward, give the others hell, and ride their hearts out. Then, in years to come, they can hold their heads high. For even if they never don the jersey symbolic of such significant achievement, already they have all come so far. Yes, they should tell the grandchildren. I raced in the shadow of the mighty Aces for my whole career. I had one legitimate shot at the world title. I made the most of it. I gave it everything I had, and a better man won. But I have no regrets. And hypothetical grandchildren who shall be blessed to hear such words will have a fire so kindled in their hearts the fiercest obstacles life can throw at them shall be obliterated by the ferocity of their determination. And goosebumps shall creep upon their limbs every time Grandpa's heroics at Fayetteville are retold. All right, so that was the preview, in a way at least. Probably more than half of it was spent not previewing. So I don't know what to tell you. It was kind of fun. I thought, to a lesser degree than obviously other stuff that I've done, this one started to take a bit of a life of its own at the end. So I thought that was nice. But anyways, I was about to go to like some dark places with Quinten Hermans, like missing out. Like that really sucks for the guy. I really feel very bad for him because he started the season off so well, and there was a lot of races he could have won, but he had technical mistakes. The rug was pulled out from under him at Euros, and then I don't know. This is just not what he needed. Did not deserve it, like I said. But if he's actually sick, then it's like, I don't know. If it's COVID of a year ago, that really does take it out of you physically, or almost probably like 99% across. It like actually takes it out of you for endurance stuff. So he probably wouldn't have been able to compete well anyways. If it's this lesser version, I don't know. I'm not going to comment. I'm not the medical expert, so who knows? He's not riding. That's a bummer. Yeah. So, anyways, the joke is, I don't know what's gonna happen. I really don't. I guess I could still say Tom Pidcock, but I'd actually be happy to see all these guys take it. Basically, any of them. They're all good guys. I really think this is all their one chance. Pidcock might have other chances, so that's why it's like, all right, it won't be too sad if he doesn't get it, but he is the next kind of heir, or the next in line, so I don't know. It would be fitting if he lived up to that. Then again, too, he was like the Olympic mountain bike champion, so, I mean, I think he's still got to be the favorite. I mean, he won the Olympic mountain bikes when he was a dark horse favorite, and now he's the favorite here, and I don't know. I don't think he has a good record of rising to the occasion, so I don't know. He's probably still a favorite, but I mean, he in the psychological battle, I mean, he gave Ellie Iserbit all the confidence in the world. How did he fall back to him on Sunday? I mean, that I don't know how to explain that. There was a couple where they got back into it, like Lars van der Haar and Van Tornout coming back into it. I rewatched how, like, when they caught, and I still can't explain it. Like, I don't understand how they bridged across these gaps so easily or so quick. Not easily. None of that was easy. And they didn't even make it look easy like they usually do. That was a hard race, and Ellie Iserbit gutted that thing out in those last laps, and he won that. That was pretty sweet. And he worked his ass off Saturday too. I mean, that was impressive. He was dangling out back there all the time. That doesn't bode well, but I mean, shit, he did not throw in the towel. That was pretty good. Pretty good performance from him. So, I even kind of, I don't know, like Lawrence Sweck, he really has not done much this season, but like if I was going to have join a fan club for a rider, I guess I would have just picked him because it would have been a little bit more random than most. And, you know, this wasn't his best year by any means. His best year is the year he won the Belgian championship, and he has not looked close to that until Saturday, and maybe you could say the second place at Belgian Nats. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Toon Aerts consistent. Who else did I say? Whatever. I already talked about all of them. Van Tornout, I don't know. The Namar course is pretty much like, well, no. The Namar course with the physical elevation changes might be similar to Fayetteville. We'll see. I'd be surprised if I did not name the winner in this thing. And I exclusively started chopping some names out so that it didn't get to be such a headache, because it's rude to just start throwing 12 names and you only talk about 5 of them, right? So anyways, that's that. And with that, yeah, I think like we could probably call this a preview. This was probably long. Follow me on Twitter, Cycling Odysseys. Find the blog post, cyclingodysseys.com. Subscribe to the show. Watch on YouTube. Leave 5-star reviews, comments, likes. Really appreciated. Really helps grow the channel so that I can justify committing more time to this. With that, thank you for listening. Vive la cyclisme.